The Chicago Sky have returned to practicing, getting ready for the second half of the WNBA season. On today's episode, we're going to continue our player grades, this time looking at Isabelle Harrison, Dana Evans, and Michaela Onyenwere. We're going to look at that, plus more, right after this.
Welcome to Chicago Sky Central, and here's your host, Haize.
What's going on, Sky fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Sky Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Sky related. I'm the host, Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow this channel at Chicago Sky Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that being said, let's go ahead and get into this content for today, y'all. So I want to start off. I know I said we're going to get into the practices, things like that, player grades, but we did, since the Chicago Sky have started practice, we heard from the new players for the first time. Mariah Jefferson saying this in regards to leaving the Connecticut Sun and coming to the Chicago Sky, saying probably just the relationships as far as what she'll miss about being with the Sun. Probably the relationships that you build along the way. We had a good dream, and it's just part of the game. It's a business. We're excited to be here, and practice went really good for us today. Again, great energy, and just excited to be here. Rachel Banham said, I feel that luckily we're both point guard minded and high IQ players, so the transition is easy for us. Today we put in a handful of plays, and I thought it went really well. And so far, it seems like integrating the two new players is really good. Mariah Jefferson still has not been officially cleared, so we don't know when exactly she's going to make her debut for the Chicago Sky. But at least, she's out there practicing with the team, learning the plays, things like that. And by what they've said as well, it seems like maybe the Chicago Sky are trying to already start implementing some new plays. When you have, 2 weeks basically until your season starts back after you practice, that is an opportunity to add some new wrinkles to your offense, especially when you have practice like that. We heard with the practice that happened on Thursday that the defensive rotations were pretty good, right? On top of that, they had some really intense practices on top of that, and they're really trying to sharpen things up to get ready for the latter half of this season. And so we'll see what happens. This team is a team that has a lot of room for growth, right? Both offensively and defensively, especially kind of understanding the mismatches. It does seem like right now that Michaela Onyenwere is probably going to be the starter, but me and Steve-O will have an episode on that where we predict the starting lineup going forward into the rest of the season. But right now, it seems like with the Sky with having a 10-14 record, which still has them 8th and fighting for a playoff spot, that we'll see if this team can continue that growth and development over the course of that. But, integrating these two new players is going to be big for this Chicago Sky team. And Teresa Weatherspoon has a task in front of her, is that you need to integrate two veteran players that you probably do need in regards to, helping your team. And if they can better kind of identify how to get your bigs the ball down low, that's going to be something that definitely helps your team as you're growing and developing as well. So that's something to really look for that it changed. But me and Steve-O have more on that. I love breaking down the X's and O's with Steve-O on the episode. So we'll have a more in-depth episode on that here coming up. But overall, I'm excited about the second half of the season for the Chicago Sky. And they got some rotation things that they need to kind of figure out. And that's going to be a task in front of them. But overall, Angel Reese, back from Paris, practicing with the team, having really intense physical practices is really good for this team because the second and latter half of this season really does shape up to be extremely physical leading into the playoffs. And the reason why I say that is that the fact that the Sky have this, the WNBA as a whole has had this large gap when it comes down to between the All-Star break starting and when the season comes back, it's really going to be a big deal for them to kind of all acclimate, and everybody's going to be healthy and had an extra time to rest up, of course, except the players who went over and played overseas, of course, in the Olympics. But overall, this is going to be something that I think is going to be a big one to watch how this season continues to evolve for the Chicago Sky. But in the season evolving, that means that we need solid production from our players. And so with that said, we've started doing these player grades, and we're going to continue them today. The first player that I want to talk about is Dana Evans. And Dana Evans is an interesting case to really kind of break down for the Chicago Sky team, mainly because Dana Evans came in, earned that starting point guard position. Teresa Weatherspoon was really kind of head over heels for Dana Evans. And Dana Evans was the kind of point guard that I really thought would really turn into a pit bull under Teresa Weatherspoon. She's going to empower players, things like that. And Dana's always been one of those players as well that everybody kind of looked at. It's been a Sky fan long term, looked at and said, hey, Dana, if she just gets unleashed a little bit more. And unfortunately, we really didn't have that. As the starting point guard for the Chicago Sky, unfortunately, Dana Evans was disappointing, both offensively and defensively. Not as disappointing offensively as what she was, defensively as what she was offensively, but she never really quite ran the show. And the Chicago Sky really needed something different from the point guard position than what they've needed the last few years because of having really good ball handlers all up and down that team for the last few years. Marina Mabry, Kalia Copper last year, the season before that, Ema Misamin, and having of course Courtney Vandersloot and everybody the year before that. And so it was an opportunity for Dana Evans to grab the bull by the horns and show that she could be the starting point guard to kind of lead this next new young phase of the Chicago Sky forward. And she didn't do that. And then when she moved to the bench, things were okay coming off the bench. She's averaging 7.7 points per game so far this season for the Chicago Sky. And it's just, overall, it has been a disappointing season for Dana. I think most people will agree with that it hasn't been the best for Dana. And when it comes down to it, is it all on Dana Evans? Some of it is the makeup of the team. I think that Dana Evans, the thing that we've seen the most from Dana is that she is no longer, she's not the type of point guard where you want her really kind of setting up offense, right? Dana Evans is a scoring guard that you want her to be hugely effective in what she can do scoring wise, right? Like that's the thing. And sometimes off of the scoring that she's able to do, the gravity of her scoring, she's going to be able to facilitate some as far as making really good passes. But when you look at it, the splits between Dana being a starter and being off the bench is kind of noticeable. Now, as a starter, she did average 12.3 points per game. She shot the ball 38% from the field and 37% from three-point range. But unfortunately, the defense just wasn't really there for her. Now, when you look at it as well, with her, 10.3 points per game is what she averaged as a starter. And then when you look at what she's averaged coming off the bench, it's only 4.7 points per game coming off the bench for her as well. She's shooting the ball 32% from the field coming off the bench, 32% from three, 93% from free throw range. And overall, she's just not having a big impact. Dana Evans has in large been disappointing for the Chicago Sky, both starting and coming off the bench. Yeah, averaging double-digit points per game as a starter is really good. If you look at that kind of in a vacuum, but then when you watch it within the game and the confines of the game, it wasn't really what you needed it to be. And so it's unfortunate that Dana, couldn't take that next opportunity and that step, especially in a contract year. Now I still do think that Dana Evans can still be effective. I think that she would have to be unleashed strictly as a scorer, and you would have to run a very different type of system when she's in the game versus when she's out the game. And I just don't know if the Chicago Sky are prepared to do that, right? Dana Evans could thrive in a more up-tempo, kind of pick-and-roll heavy offense that I think that allows her to kind of shoot the three coming off screens and things like that. And unfortunately, just with the way that this team has gone, I don't see them really kind of featuring that. Now, you're going to get some opportunities for that. And unless the Chicago Sky have really changed their offense considerably with that bench unit, it's just not going to be the balance there. Now, I will say this, some of it too is that we have to look at Dana Evans as the offense. Her and Diamond DeShields coming off the bench, which we'll get into Diamond in the next episode. But Dana Evans has been a mixed bag for me. Defensively, I think she's been better defensively coming off the bench than what she was as a starter, and that's fine. Dana Evans really, last season for the Chicago Sky, guarding players 48 feet, the full length of the court, just digging in and being that dog defensively for the Chicago Sky. We haven't even seen that consistently. More consistently coming off the bench, but not really throughout the season. And so this season, unfortunately for me, it's a D for Dana Evans. And I know that's a pun in that, right? But it's been disappointing. The D is for disappointing. It's been a disappointing season for Dana, and a season where I really wanted to see her take a leap. She's prior to the season, only started 2 games for the Chicago Sky. She started 12 games out of the 23 she's played, and it just hasn't been good. And so, over the last part of the season, and if the Sky do make the playoffs, she still has a chance to kind of maybe show that she deserves and earns and can earn another contract. But it's going to have to come via her locking in and really doing the things that really that are strengths for her. And if she's prepared to do that, if she does do it, then great. I would love to see Dana Evans turn this rest of the season around for her to just be something that we absolutely need off this team, and that is a scorer. We can use isolation scores coming into this to allow kind of the players in the wings to do more, right? But I don't know if we're going to see it this season for the Sky. And every day, every game that goes by, it gets a little bit more and more disappointing. Just being 100% honest, it just gets more disappointing because you can't bet on a consistent level of production from Dana Evans, either defensively or offensively, And that really just leaves you in a place to where it's like, hey, Dana, are you going to wake up? Is maybe, I thought that maybe her going to the bench after being the starter was going to help her, but it just hasn't either for Dana Evans. So we'll see how the rest of the season, but I got to give Dana Evans a D, and we'll see how that goes. The next player I want to talk about is Isabelle Harrison. Izzy Harrison. This is a player that I actually thought, had she came into the season healthy, she may have even started this season, to be 100% honest with you. But Izzy has been one of those players that has shown flashes. And there's been games absolutely where Isabelle Harrison and her scoring prowess off the bench and even some of the defense has made a big difference for the Chicago Sky. But it hasn't been consistent yet. She's played 19 games this season for the Chicago Sky, and she shot the ball 39% from the field, 25% from three. It just hasn't been good, averaging 5.7 points per game. And the thing with Isabelle Harrison is that we never really got to see what the vision was for Isabelle Harrison as Sky fans. She came into this team and was expected to do a much different role than what she's done this season, last season, but then she never got to play last season. And so, Isabelle Harrison adjusting, I do think she brings some really good mentorship for the younger players as well, and she really does embrace those young players, and you see her every time with Angel Reese, with Camila Cardoso. The fact that she can play next to either one of those players as well is really good. She has a PER, player efficiency rating, of 13 so far this season. She's rebounding the ball, 3.7 rebounds per game. She's not really gotten a whole lot of minutes per game either. And when you look at it, the Chicago Sky, when she's on the court, average a higher block rate, a higher steal rate. Their offensive rating is better as well. And even their defensive rebounding is considerably better with Isabelle Harrison on the court. The fact is that we just haven't seen a whole lot of it, right? So that's the thing that you got to worry about with Izzy, is that when you don't play a lot of minutes, those numbers can be skewed and kind of in a good way or a bad way. She's only averaging 14 and a half minutes per game for the Chicago Sky. Now, I do think with the trade that we made that we could see a little bit more of her, and hopefully she's gotten healthier as well to where we can play her a little bit more, because I think a big rotation of Angel Reese, Camila Cardoso, and Isabelle Harrison can be a nice, versatile front court there, but you got to just kind of work that out in how you play it. But overall, Isabelle Harrison, I think for the situation of her being injured and not really being consistent in the minutes and things, a solid C-, right? Because, again, I got to give her credit for how she has uplifted the team at times. Now, there's been times where Teresa Weatherspoon has kept her in the game and kept like an Angel Reese or Camila Cardoso out. But that isn't on Isabelle, the player. That's on Teresa Weatherspoon, which I will be doing grades for Teresa Weatherspoon and the coaching staff as well. So don't overlook that. But I just look at this and say that there's so much that has been left on the table with Izzy, and I hope that the best basketball for her is remaining to come. She's shooting the ball the worst that she's done in her NBA career. 39%. She's never shot the ball less than 45%. Less than 44.7, 45% her whole entire career. So there's enough to think that she's going to be able to get back to being and scoring the ball more effectively, because with a Chicago Sky team that needs some bench scoring consistently, Isabelle Harrison can bring much more than the 5.7 points per game that she's been given so far. I just can't give her credit because I think that she can do it until I actually see it. And hopefully over the last part of the season that we actually start seeing that for Izzy Harrison. But let me know what you guys think on Izzy. Izzy was a weird one to grade because she has given some really good minutes at times for the Chicago Sky. But at other times, it's been that thing again where you just look at it and you're like, is it the injury? Is it is she maybe shying away from some physicality that maybe she doesn't know just because she doesn't trust that leg? But then again, you saw her a lot of times in that at the Athletes Unlimited tournament where she really did light it up in that tournament. So we'll see what happens with Isabelle Harrison. Overall, I really hope that she can turn around on the second half of this season. All right, let's get into the last player that I'm going to do a grade for today, and that is Michaela Onyenwere. And this is a player who is shaped up to get a much larger role over the second half of the season. A former Rookie of the Year, what many people call one of the more disappointing rookie classes in WNBA history, right? When you look at it, the fact that she won Rookie of the Year without scoring double digits in points per game, but still 24 years old and 6 foot, 170 pounds, 178 pounds. This is a player that has length, that has versatility defensively that you can definitely look at. And she's still raw. Even though she's been in the WNBA, going now on her 4th season, she's still a player that has not really rounded out some aspects of her game, right? And so Michaela Onyenwere is this player that offers so much potential in helping change some certain things for the Chicago Sky. But between the role not being consistent for her, which it has not been, she's set out multiple games, right? Started 2 for the Chicago Sky, but only 17 games played so far for the Sky. And when you look at it, she shot the ball 37% from the field so far, which is tied for the lowest in her career. But she shot the ball 42% from 3, which is the best of her WNBA career, but she's only taken a little over 1 3-pointers per game. So again, the highest volume season she has was a rookie year when she took it at 3.5 3-pointers per game, hit that at a 32% clip. But can Michaela Onyenwere now probably stepping into a starting role in place of Marina Mabrey? Can she bring that 3-point shooting a little bit more consistently? And then the defensive versatility, the switchable defense. One thing about Marina Mabrey, even though she gave some effort at times defensively, she really was she didn't have the length, she didn't have the foot speed. Michaela Onyenwere has all of that. And we've seen it through the last couple of games of the season as well for Michaela Onyenwere, that she was really starting to maybe turn it around, right? We started saying, hey, why aren't you playing her in some of these games and some of these minutes? Matter of fact, the last 2 games of the season, the first one against the New York Liberty, she scored 14 points in 20 minutes and shot the ball 85% from the field. And then the last game of the season against the Aces, shot the ball 100% from the field and scored 9 points. So maybe there's a little bit sign that thing can start turning around for Michaela Onyenwere. And if she earns the starting role like I think she will, she's going to have a lot of opportunity to be out there and kind of just do the things that she does well. She can be a solid defender. The thing about Michaela Onyenwere is that she has the skill set to almost be a perfect role player. She's the master of no skill, and I don't mean that as a slight, but she can do a little bit of everything. She can get skills. She can be active and cause deflections, things like that. She can be a solid on-ball defender, solid off-ball defender. She can rebound okay. She can shoot the ball well at times if she gets into a rhythm. So Michaela Onyenwere, much like with a lot of players on this team, the latter half of this season has an opportunity to really show how she can fit in with this younger core. She has an opportunity here to be part of the young future of the Chicago Sky if she can start turning it around. Kennedy Carter, Angel Reese, Camila Cardoso, Michaela Onyenwere has the chance to be that next player that, again, I'm not saying she's going to be a long-term starter. Maybe she ends up turning into a solid bench contributor for the Chicago Sky. But she has that opportunity, and I hope she really grabs that opportunity. But for the grade for the first half of the season, considering the shooting splits, considering the up and down roll, considering the fact that sometimes she has disappeared on offense even when she has gotten minutes. But she hasn't really been consistent in it at all either, and she gets a little bit of credit for that as well. I give Michaela Onyenwere, I fluctuated between giving a D and a C. I'm going to give her a C minus, mainly because of the erratic minutes. 8 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 1 minute, 15 minutes, 11 minutes, 4 minutes. Really inconsistent. And it's hard to give when your role changes and your minutes aren't consistent, it's hard to be consistent, especially when you're a player trying to fill it out on a new team. But I hope that Michaela Onyenwere can be much better in the second half of the season. And if she can, she has a chance to really help this team tremendously in a few areas that we do need it. So we'll see what comes about with that. With that said, before we leave, I do want to get into the last topic here, and that is Chance the Rapper was actually interviewed and talked about the WNBA. And he said this: it's amazing. It's crazy because I was new to the women's league when I first started. Going to games in 2000, 2020, 2021. And watching that team win their championship was such an energizing thing for the whole city. Like the parade, the way that people just had pride in sports, team was kind of like, it's reminiscent of when I was growing up. And to see it become like this huge thing on a national stage has just been beautiful and revolutionary. And when you hear somebody that said that's new to it, right? The fact that the growing game, the growing popularity of the WNBA has been something that's drawn in a lot of new fans. Many of you guys who watch this channel every time we post a video now, I can't say daily because we haven't been that consistent, will admit it. You guys are new to the WNBA. And I got to give the WNBA credit. I want to just take some time to give the W credit for, I've said, if you guys go back and watch the older episodes, I talk so oftenly about how I did not think the WNBA was even in a place to be ready to grow, only because I don't know if they were going to do the marketing and those things right. And why it has not been perfect, it's been much better than what I gave it credit for. The way the WNBA handled All-Star Weekend this year was tremendous in the marketing aspect of it. Yeah, the product on the court was great, but the marketing aspect of it. We're in a unique place where we get to see a league really take leaps and bounds. I wasn't around, well, I guess I was for the grow of the NBA globally. I was a kid. I didn't really think about it. I was watching Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen play basketball. I didn't really care about the game growing internationally, right? But the game, this WNBA game, is growing at such an exponential level and adopting new fans that I'm glad that it's been welcoming. And while it's been discourse, of course, with Caitlin Clark fans and Angel Reese fans and things like that, I just love the fact that the W is finally growing and getting the attention that it deserves on the national stage. Let's hope that this continues. But you guys can follow the show at Chicago Sky Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, ChicagoSkyCentral@gmail.com. And then lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-27. No, wait, before we go, we actually got a voicemail. I'm giving this up too quick. We got a voicemail. This one's from Brooklyn. Let's go ahead and play that now.
Yeah, Chicago Sky was good. It's your boy Brooklyn 80s. I just wanted to call in since the season about to pick back up and get my opinion on the new look Sky for the trade. So first off, I want to give Marina her flowers. You know what I'm saying? I know a lot of people feel I have mixed feelings about the trade, but I want to give her flowers because I feel like even though she asked to leave, she not leaving on bad terms. I think she had good chemistry with the team while she was here, but I do think it was time for her to go. You know what I'm saying? I was one of the people asking for her to go, asking for Dan to go. You know what I mean? And, you know, good luck to her. And hopefully, you know, she have a good season with the Sun. But as for us, I feel like this trade actually helped us out a lot. The reason why I'm saying that is not because, see, Marina is a better player than Onyenwere, but Onyenwere is a way better fit than Marina. If she could do it, I think she could do it, just hit that corner three. We have two bigs, right, that's paint dominant, and we have a guard that wants to get in the paint as well. So the biggest thing we need is floor spacing. So even though Marina was a great threat for some three, she struggled this year, but she was a great threat for some three. Somebody who just want to stand in the corner, I think, is much more important than somebody with the ball at the top of the key trying to run a play, right? Because now with Marina with the ball up top, her being our three-point shooter, she's not spacing the floor for us, right? It's people in the corners that they sagging off that, in the past couldn't shoot the three, and it was her at the top who could shoot the three, but she's being guarded. Now instead, we're going to have somebody like Lindsey Allen at the top, and we're going to have two people in those corners who could knock down that three if they sag off, which is going to create more space. That's why I feel like this trade, even though Marina, is a better player and probably our best three-point shooter, this trade actually make us a better team. So yeah, I wanted to touch on that, and then I'm gonna actually call back to get my thoughts on the bench, because I feel like the bench, I feel like we got an issue there that nobody's talking about. So thanks for taking the call. It's your boy Brooklyn 80s.
Yep. And he talks about Michaela Onyenwere, and I'll say this: I think that Michaela Onyenwere can seamlessly fit in with her skill set, but just because you're a better fit doesn't mean you get better. It equals to better production for the team. And that's something that remains to be seen. I'm not saying that it won't be, but we got to see if her better fit defensively, the versatility, how she can still shoot the ball, and how she's just more naturally of a role player, right? So she's not going to necessarily call for as many shots as Marina Mabrey was getting. And so that can either help other players kind of find their rhythm offensively, but we also got to move the ball around. And she's an okay passer as well. So that's things that we got to see how that fit's going to happen for the Chicago Sky. But I do think Michaela Onyenwere, like I said in the last segment, she has a really big chance to really grow her game and to show that she belongs on the stage. And let's hope that she can do it. But all right, now that's the end of the show, guys. Make sure you guys are following the show at Chicago Sky Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, ChicagoSkyCentral@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We're the number one spot for everything Chicago Sky related. That's thanks to you guys. And like I like to end every episode on, go Sky. Love you guys. And I'll see you guys the next time we go to Skytown, y'all. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.